Welcome to Dynasty Playbook. We may not be the most professional show in Dynasty, but we are the most entertaining. I'm your host, Drew. You can find me on Twitter at DrewDotsonNFL. With me is my co-host, Tyler. You can find him on Twitter at HBombIDP. And you can find the Dynasty Playbook on Stitcher, iTunes, and on ffcouchcoach.com. Tyler, how you doing today, bud?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Isn't the Pro Bowl on right now?
I
think it's on right now.
Couldn't tell you.
No idea, right?
I was probably in high school the last time I watched the Pro Bowl.
I used to watch like the sand football, the old the ACL wars they used to have like the day before the Pro Bowl, where they're playing in sand and guys are just literally dying out there. Good times, right?
It's not very good, but we're all going to be dying for football here in a month or two anyways. We're going to be like getting that itch like, oh, let me watch the combine, this would be great. No, we'll not.
Yeah, come middle of March, I'd watch the shit out of the Pro Bowl. Like, I'll watch any kind of organized football. I'll watch some arena stuff. I'd do anything.
Oh, are the kids playing at the high school today? Let's get down there.
Yeah, just sit here and stare at draft breakdown clips all day till your brain's going to explode.
Yeah. It's the end is coming, but hey, at least the end is going to be fun for you. How excited are you?
Well, I'm cautiously optimistic. I mean, Carolina's a freaking freight train. We were a deserved underdog, but anybody that thinks the Broncos don't have a chance is out of their goddamn mind. Because with those two dudes coming off the edge, that in and of itself gives everybody a chance. So I'm all about it. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, man, I'd be pretty stoked too. I mean, they pulled it out of their ass against New England. I feel like if you can do that, you probably got a chance against everybody.
Yeah, I don't know, but Cam's a different animal. What we did to Brady so well is we flushed him out of the pocket, and then we could get him from behind. You flush Cam out of the pocket, he's 20 yards downfield. I think it's going to come down to Malik and Derek Wolfe, Brandon Marshall, Trevathan. Can they contain the middle of the field and keep Cam from getting upfield? Because if we can collapse the pocket and he's got nowhere to go, that's where Denver has a chance. But there's a lot of ifs there.
Yeah, honestly, they might be better off skimping a little bid on the secondary and bringing in extra guys to contain Cam, because it's not like they're wide receivers or anything special. They're turds. I mean, Ted Ginn isn't even all that good. I feel like the who you all got back there is going to be plenty. There's not going to be double teaming necessary.
Yeah, bring it. Bring the heat. Bring them all.
But talking about guys that are monsters and talking about guys that are old, it seems like we're getting news today that Calvin Johnson is retiring, which, I mean, the Lions are used to it. They're used to having their star players retire a little earlier than they'd like. And if this is the case, if he's actually retiring, it sucks to see him go, but at the same time, it would suck to see him stay too, because he's going to continue to get beat up and you're going to watch him just fall apart. Look what happened with Foster. It sucked to watch. When he's healthy, he's one of the reasons you watch football at all, but it kind of breaks your heart a little bit to watch him fall apart like that.
Yeah, I mean, he was heading in that direction. Look at the age curve for wide receivers. Calvin seemed to have fallen off a lot faster, and he just didn't look the same. He looked hurt all the time, like he was, struggling to get downfield. 2012 Calvin, that was a thing of beauty, and we were all blessed to have seen that, because that was dominant. 2012 Calvin was something else, and he's pretty damn good the last few years. But if he is done, Godspeed. It's been a hell of a ride. Been more fun than any other player in the league to watch. But he was about out of dynasty value as far as I was concerned, anyway. Speaking of, in dynasty fantasy football terms. I was done with him 2 years ago.
That sounds about right, because I wasn't drafting him in startups in 2014, so that would be 2 years ago. At this point, I'll send out like a random third for him on the off chance that he doesn't retire, because that can have the chances to pay off pretty highly. If he comes back and has some crazy Larry season or something like that, then you're not going to get that from a normal third round pick. So that to me is about where I'd be willing to spend the capital.
Yeah, I wouldn't pay much more than that. I'd give a third easily, but that's it. I wouldn't have given a first a week ago before he said. I don't even know if I would have given a late first for him. I mean, probably feet to the fire I would have, but I certainly wouldn't have offered it.
I said it last offseason I wouldn't have given a first for Calvin, and that's a year younger. So that's a pretty telling example on where my stance has been on him.
Yeah, he just looks broken, dude. Just looks broken, and I'm gonna bet you he's broken mentally as well. That franchise is a dumpster fire, and it's got no. It certainly doesn't look like it's getting any better.
It's interesting to actually think about it. They did the same thing to him that they did to Barry. Shitty team for a good while he was there, and then they looked hopeful for a minute, and then dashed all those hopes and dreams on the ground. And that's, I mean, like you said, that's got to break somebody mentally. It's really got to break your drive and your spirit to think, oh, we had a chance to be good, but nope.
Too bad. Today. We're the Lions. It's just kind of like, oh, well.
Yeah. I hope I see the Lions good within my lifetime. I hate seeing the guys suffer like that just consistently. Same thing with the Browns. Same thing with the Raiders. It hasn't been as long, but it's still been long enough. Because I mean, I've been on the other side. It's not fun watching a team that's just everybody's like they just suck forever.
Yeah, and the NFL it's built to so that these dynasties don't stay going for 10, 12, 15 years like you had back in the 80s when it was the Niners and the Broncos, then the Cowboys on the scene, and they just dominated year in, year out. And now the NFL has more parity than ever before, and those teams still suck. Even with all the advantages that they've been given, they still suck. So who knows, man? It's just a hot mess, but sucks if Calvin is retiring. I kind of think he probably is. I mean, where there's smoke, there's fire. There's a lot of smoke here. So we may have seen the last of one of the great ones.
There's just a lot of smoke at your house.
A lot. Quite a
bit. But I think one of the reasons that they continue to be poor teams is you'll have to look at the only constant, and it's shitty management. It's shitty ownership. The Browns just happen to get two shitty owners back to back. I mean, there's nothing you can do about that besides not letting shitty owners buy your team. But the Fords were consistently guilty of mismanaging their team. It's amazing the Chargers ever did well, considering how big of a turd that Spanos is. But the guys that consistently do well, like the Seahawks, have consistently done well. Their ownership is on the ball. Kraft he hires the right people. He doesn't meddle in affairs that he doesn't belong in. These guys are all, billionaires, multimillionaires because they knew how to run businesses. But they weren't going to be the ones, sitting in their accounting department telling people how to do their job. They were going to hire people that knew how to do their job instead of sticking their nose in everything. And I think that's why, the Titans are doing shitty. The Browns are doing shitty. And finally, the Jags got a good owner, and he actually knows what he's doing. They're on the way up. But you can just kind of tell. You can tell what teams the owners are trying to play God, I guess. With that, we'll move on to our college player discussion of the week, and we'll talk about a guy I hadn't really done a whole lot of research on until recently, and that's Will Fuller out of Notre Dame. He's a junior wide receiver, going to be 22 when he steps on the field as a rookie. He is 6 foot even, 184 pounds, so he weighs less than I do. That's not very good, but he makes up for it in being extremely fast. I would not be surprised if he runs a sub 4.4 at all. I really like what I saw from him. One of his biggest negatives is he's not a really good hands catcher, but he's a fairly good catcher overall. He has some concentration drops, which tend to be less of an issue coaching them out of than just having bad hands. But overall, it's not a huge issue in my opinion, and I say that strangely enough, because normally I don't write off people's hands. Normally it's the biggest thing I look at. But I get this feeling about him, like he's able to succeed despite his hands. I love his route running, super crisp moves, coming back to the quarterback, even just planting and moving. Everything is sharp, crisp. There's no wasted motion, and he gets out of his breaks quickly. He's huge on the deep ball. He's huge, getting that long speed, and he tracks the ball well, extremely well. They keep trying to use him in the screen game. I saw a lot of that, and only a few times did he really succeed. So many times he just was not able to get that initial burst to get going, and he came off as very meh in the screen game. I was not a fan of it. His game almost kind of reminds me of Brandon Cooks in that if you get him in stride even a little bit, he's going. His yards after the catch are going to be insane. But expecting him to be able to outmuscle players when they're already on top of him is unrealistic considering his size. And maybe that's why I like him so much, is because he reminds me of Brandon Cooks, especially coming out. He's a little bit taller. He's a little bit lighter. But he's good. He's climbed up pretty high in my wide receiver ranks, and that's only with a limited amount of time watching him. So that's where I'm sitting. What do you think?
29 touchdowns in 2 years, 15 last year and 14 this year. A lot of those came on bombs, but that's the best thing he does to me is that second level speed. He'll take the top right off the defense. If he gets a step on the corner, he's gone. Even with a safety over the top, he'll get behind him. The hands catching, and he's not even necessarily a body catcher that I saw. I mean, yeah, he lets a lot of them get into his body, but he almost kind of curls the ball in his forearms or something. It's just kind of weird to watch. Whereas you drew the Brandon Cooks comp, and they do have similar profiles, especially the way they're utilized. But Brandon Cooks would attack the football. I mean, the ball's up in the air. That's Brandon Cooks football. I didn't see that as much from Fuller, but I like him. I mean, there's a lot not to like, but there's a lot to like. Something about him, I just can't put my finger on it. I like the guy. He looks like a gamer. And the fact that they used him trying to get screens, whether he got anything or not, tells you what kind of athlete he is. If they're going to continue to force feed a guy those types of plays just to manufacture touches, then that's a guy that, the coaching staff's identified as a playmaker. Most of his stuff came in screen game, short game, and then out of like the little trips trio set where he's one of the two flankers off ball, and most of the time he's the deeper route guy. So I would like to see him utilized in different ways, more ways other than, which was pretty limited. It was deep ball or screen, or even his comebacks were 15, 20-yard comebacks from what I saw. He didn't run a lot of slants, a lot of drags, things like that. But I don't know. I like the kid. It's totally weird for me with him, but something about him, he just looks like a ball player. So where's he going to go? He's probably going to be a first-round rookie pick. Well, the depth in this class is nice, but we've only got two what I would consider elite prospects in this class. So I think he's going to get jumbled up with the Carews and the Sterling Shepards and those guys. And I like him way better than Sterling Shepard. Drew's talking about Tyler Boyd again. We're going to do this every fucking week with Tyler Boyd, aren't we?
You started it, old man. There is 3 elite talents in this class, and it's not Derrick Henry that's number 3. You make a good point about how he attacks the ball or how he treats the ball as opposed to Cooks, and I hadn't really considered that part prior to my comp. They seemed very similar to me, and before they interact with the ball and once it's already in their hands. But even then, Cooks handled the ball better, like as a carrier. I mean, part of that came with him being used as a runner as well. But I just mean in more so in their movements.
Oh yeah, I get what you're saying completely. I wasn't trying to throw dirt on your comp. That's just for some reason that popped into my head because I remember watching Cooks and he was so aggressive when the ball was in the air. Whereas Fuller will just kind of wait on it to come to him on intermediate routes.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I mean, that to me is the difference between why Cooks was my 102. Oops. And he was, Fuller is going to be my 110 or something. And I think Fuller is going to be that weird guy where he's going to go anywhere from 107, 108 to 204 because that whole middle tier is so wide that it's going to be who likes what guy at what pick. What do you have? When are you going to get him? But I like that you mentioned that they're manufacturing touches for him because this is not a team devoid of talent. You look at 2014, Folston, that dude's a beast. You look at Procise this year was fantastic as well, and yet they're still fighting to get as many touches for Fuller as they could, despite how good these guys were. That to me was a big sign, and I hadn't really spent a whole lot of time watching Procise either. And I think I'm a fan of his now too.
He runs hard, dude.
That
dude runs hard.
He might already be my number 3, and I haven't even dug that deep into him. I could see him jumping Henry for me if the rest of his tape looks as good as I think it will. Which I might get burned at the stake for that one.
That's all right. Henry's all over the place right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who are still super high on him, and then I'm over here like, I don't know if I like him as much as I used to.
I like him once he gets moving. I like Henry once he gets 2 yards past the line of scrimmage.
It's the getting started, which is the problem.
Mm-hmm. Especially in the one-back sets nowadays, man. It is not what it used to be. Barry Foster isn't going anywhere in today's NFL. You probably don't know who that is. But, guys that used to just line up, get a full head of steam, and crash forward for 4 yards, they don't exist anymore. And if they do, they're not long for the league.
Yeah, it's just it doesn't happen anymore. There's so many fullbacks, so few fullbacks being used that teams aren't even rostering them. It's not even a part of their scheme. So he's not going to see those kind of touches like he did in Alabama. And it's going to be really scheme dependent on how well he does, I think, as well. Not even just in terms of fullbacks, but just in terms of blocking schemes and all that. Just because he seems like if the offense isn't geared towards him, he's going to struggle. He's going to struggle a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So yeah, you should have let me do the sound bites. I found some toys here on the Google Hangout toolbar.
There's a soundboard. Tyler wants to make sounds, and we're not having any of that.
Not yet.
Let's move on to a subreddit discussion questions. A post that we saw on the Dynasty Fantasy Football subreddit earlier this week, and we wanted to touch on it. So why don't you hit us up because they were your posts?
Yeah, there were a couple of questions in the sub, and they both just kind of stood out to me. Not the exact question, but they more to kind of deal with dynasty philosophy. So the first sub was I think he was offered this trade. He was offered the 102 for his Jamal Charles and Jeremy Langford and a 10-team PPR. And the premise of the question was that he's in a win-now situation. His team is good, and he's concerned about hurting his chances to win this season or this coming season. And I don't even care whether I'm the best team in the league, whether I'm in a win-now situation or not. If I can cash out for Jamal Charles and Jeremy frickin' Langford for the 102, I'm going to do it every single time. And, of course, it technically hurts your ability to win right now, but would we really, really be all that surprised if, say, Zeke Elliott outscores Jamal Charles next year? Granted, the smart money's on Jamal Charles outscoring him, but would we really be surprised? Is the difference between Jamal Charles and Zeke Elliott those extra however many 6, 7, 8 years of having a potential RB1 outweigh that point differential in the short term? And for me, it just absolutely doesn't. So for me, this trade was a slam dunk. And there were several replies to this that said, no, I wouldn't move that. I wouldn't move Charles and Langford for just one pick. And it just kind of wakes me up sometimes when I see how these, other leagues operate, because I get so used to I'm playing with Drew and Tim Smith and Sticky and Dylan and these guys, and they're not any of us. That trade's not going down in one of our leagues. If you offer that to somebody, anyone in our leagues, they're going to laugh you out of the room. So I thought that was another interesting facet of that, just seeing what the actual market is outside of our little bubble in which we operate. So, for me, I'm taking something like that.
It's pretty easy. You can throw away, either that thought didn't come out right. It's the 102, regardless of who it is. If it's Treadwell, if it's Boyd, if it's Zeke, it makes no sense not to make that deal. And granted, we're both lower on Langford than the consensus. I think Langford's a turd. Even if you think he's going to be the starter, he's still a third or fourth round NFL draft pick. Historically, he doesn't have a ton of staying power as a guy who's going to go in the first half of the first round. It's just, even in win now, I would rather take the 102 and trade it to somebody who's going to value it more and get David Johnson or get TJ Yeldon and a piece additional, because you're going to get more than just TJ Yeldon or David. You might get David Johnson straight up. There are some people who are taking Johnson over the 101 right now, and I don't agree with that. And I love David Johnson, but that's neither here nor there. I think the other one was kind of similar, was give the 2016 105 and 106 for the 20 for a solid 2017 first. Solid. I love the 2017 class. I've been stoked about the 2017 class for a year and a half, 2 years now. But that you're still gambling on that being a low pick. Am I going to take the top probably 8 players out of the 2017 class over the top 4 of this class? Maybe. But that's still a gamble I don't want to take. And you're not just throwing away one of those chances. You're throwing away 2. The 105 and the 106 are both going to pick up considerable value between now and April. And the 2017 pick is not going to gain any. There's no reason to throw away value for no reason, really.
Yeah, to me, that is the exact opposite of how it should work. If I'm trading out of the first round into next year's first round, I want to pick up something else. That's one pick. If I'm trading out of the first, I want a first and a second for next year, something like that. And to trade 2 mid-first rounders is even worse. And this 16 class is like getting shit on right now, like all over the place. I've seen a couple startup drafts where like freaking Justin Hardy's going ahead of like the 108. I mean, that's just bonkers to me. And whether you like the class or not, it doesn't matter, because on draft day, people will be salivating, period. There will be sharks in the water, and the water's full of blood. And those picks are going to be worth substantially more right now than a random, pick going forward. So this is a great example of don't sell your draft picks right now unless you're getting really good return. I'm not saying don't sell them, shop them. Sure, shop the shit out of them. I don't care. But get something for them. Don't just get a random asset in the future that may or may not do you any good, and it's also an asset that you can't touch for a year. It's like those savings bonds your grandma used to give for your birthday. Like, gee, thanks for nothing that I can use for 5 years. Just don't do crap like this. Don't. No, bad.
I don't know what you're talking about. My grandparents didn't like me enough to do that. Or maybe they did and no one ever told me. I don't know.
Womp, womp, womp. See? You got to give me the sound effects.
Oh, that is such a bad idea. But it's like you said. Right now, people are just, that's the 105, that's the 106. Come draft day, people are going to have players in mind. They're going to have their hearts set on some of these guys. There's going to be some guy who saw Corey Coleman's combine because he's going to run fast at the combine. We know he's gonna. Or they're going to see some highlight reel plays, and they're going to want that just in every team they can get him on. So they're going to give you a 17 first straight up for that 105, and they'll probably give you something on top of it. And if they're drafting Corey Coleman, they're probably picking low too because they're not good at making good decisions. So it's going to be a high 17 first. Yeah, I might have just been a dick there. Whatever.
Oh, that's good.
All in all, there's no reason to do moves like that. It's just not. And I think with that, we'll move on to our IDP spotlight for the week, who is a guy I like a good bit. Ziggy Ansah is a defensive end with the Detroit Lions, and he's really good. Really, really good. And I've been fighting with my rankings for him for a little bit. I've got him kind of in a tie with at DN3 with Chandler Jones. Part of the reason I like him on that same level is because he's not going to lose defensive end eligibility regardless of the scheme. They could swing him at linebacker, but I could see him being an end more likely in both a 3-4 and a 4-3. Tyler may disagree with me, but that's fine. I just really like his game. I was a fan of him even as a raw prospect, and seeing him now more refined is pretty cool. He's got a lot of just edge to his game. I love his nose for the big play is huge. He's just a lot of fun to watch. I don't know if that's actually part of people's evaluations, but it's part of my evals. I like watching my guys do good.
For a defensive end, being fun to watch means you're good at football.
Yeah.
Because if you're not fun to watch, because you're getting blocked all the damn time. Ziggy, I wouldn't have a problem. Ziggy anywhere from DL2 to like DL6, 7, 8, somewhere in there. I could see him going anywhere in there. I think number 3, 4, 5 is where I would have him. Somewhere right there. The dude's amazing. He won games for people this year. Drew knows. Drew has him. Drew has been high on Ziggy since the day I met him. He was taking him what I thought was entirely too high, 2-3 years ago. And now it's paying off in spades. And he's a freak athlete with a high motor and makes those monster plays. Ziggy will get the sack, strip, fumble recovery, the works, the 20-pointer for you. So he's, we've talked ad nauseum about how defensive end is tough to hammer down, and this guy he's officially elite for me. He's an elite defensive end.
Yeah, normally with any IDP, if you give me a reasonable amount, I'll ship off any IDP player I have. But Ziggy's moving into that small area of players where you really have to pay me for these guys. You really have to make it worth my while to trade them. He's in that Watt, Quinn, Kuechly, David conversation where it's not just let me toss them and reload with another cheap IDP. He's really that special player that I treat him as more than just your everyday IDP player, which having him ranked highly would normally say that. But if you give me a decent offer for any safety, gone. Don't care. If you give me any decent offer for even a linebacker outside of my top 5 or 6, gone. Have them, whatever. But those top tier guys are just. This isn't even just about Ziggy. This is just in general. They're so hard to replace, and they make such a difference in your roster, especially when your scoring is effective for IDP. And I mean,
yeah. I've always said if somebody comes after me or comes and talks to me about one of my IDPs and the word first rounder or the words first rounder are even mentioned, that's a deal I'm looking to get done. But there are only 8 or 10 IDPs that I value, like Drew was talking about, like the elites. And Ziggy's in there for me. It's comprised of probably 50-50 defensive end linebackers. And other than that, whatever. I can figure it out on the fly. But defensive end is so important because there's just so much trash out there. I mean, I got caught. I have one league where I have a great team. And this team is great. And I had Robert Quinn and a sack of ass at defensive end too. And so by the end of the year, I got 2 sacks of ass, and I'm streaming. I mean, I played Jared Allen and it got bad. I mean, I was taking zeros all over the place because it's such an unpredictable position. There are no safe plays at defensive end, but there are a handful of guys that are going to put up points consistently for you. And he's one of them. So all about the guy. What is he, 26 now, going on 27? He's a little bit older.
Yeah, I think that's about right. I think 27 sounds about right.
And he went to BYU, right? So he's the average age of a BYU true sophomore. So let's put it on that age curve, and he's doing pretty well. Did you get that? That was kind of funny. BYU has old white guys. Seriously, they got guys out there that are bald. Got like 4 kids.
He is 26, going to be 27 before the start of the season.
Plenty of years left. Several years of high-end production left.
Yep. I just saw his picture, and I completely forgot. He is a goofy-looking motherfucker.
That's an ugly sumbitch.
I mean, we're not talking Perriman ugly, but it's close. With that, we'll move on to our submitted questions, and we got another handful of them this week, and a lot of really good ones. Our first one comes from Julik DPT, if that's how you say that. And what are our thoughts on buying year 2, year 3 players now instead of 2016 rookies? Plenty of buy lows available now. I absolutely agree. Unless you're getting draft picks now, they're not buy lows. Come March, April, these draft picks are going to cost a hell of a lot to get. So I'm definitely going to be targeting year 2, year 3 players with them. Jalen Strong, Kevin White. I'm still buying Devontae Adams, even though people think I'm just dumb. Whatever. Dante Moncrief is still potentially a buy low, depending on what league you're in. Granted, most of the guys that own Moncrief are not selling Moncrief, but whatever. If we find out Fitz is going somewhere, John Brown can pick up a good deal of value. Jerick McKinnon's going to pick up a ton of value. I'm still buying Isaiah Crowell. Imagine that. People I like and are cheap and haven't done well, I'm still a fan of. There's a ton of good buy lows, and I think there's a chance for a lot of them to pick up value soon, especially with the situations ahead of them clearing up. I'm also buying Stephon Diggs because I think his value hasn't peaked yet. You know, people think he's already on the downward trend after he peaked after his 3 or 4 good weeks. I think it's going uphill from here. But that's kind of who I've got in mind.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it like, let's take this question in terms of a startup draft. Thoughts on buying year 2 and year 3 players instead of the rookies. I'll just take this angle of it. I think it's just important to set your board. If you're drafting right now, set your board. You know, drop those picks in there. Where does the 101 fall? Where does the 102, 103? If I'm faced with the decision of 102 or Jordan Matthews, who do I have first? And stay with your board when you're drafting. And that to me is just as important as anything else. Because if you just start going off the deep end, you'll look up and go, oh shit. You'll have you'll have a team with some 30-year-old guys, some 24-year-old guys, a bunch of draft picks. Team's not all that great. Next thing you know, you're immediately in a 4-year rebuild. So
and you've got a team.
Stay true to your board.
You'll have a team that looks disjointed.
Don't want to be disjointed. That's the worst thing you can be is disjointed. That's a little inside joke for our buddy Tim. Who is the least disjointed Dynasty player I've ever met? Tim has a fucking plan. He has a plan, and he just snipes you off from the missile tower. Pew, pow, pow, pow. 28 rounds, and you look up, and you're like, oh, he did it again.
And we keep inviting him to leagues, expecting us to, we're hoping we get one over on him, and every time. Every freaking time.
Yeah. Yep. The silent assassin.
So, I just got a nice notification. Apparently, Travis Kelce caught his 2nd touchdown of the Pro Bowl. Isn't that exciting news?
I am pumped. I'm pumped for Travis Kelce and all the other tight ends out there. I love them. Love them all.
Liar.
Can't stand it.
All right. Why don't you read off this next question for us?
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm asleep at the wheel here. All right. This is from Doug Dynasty. Which defensive end do I target in IDP rookie drafts? Do I pay up for Bosa or hang back for DeForest Buckner or Spence? think you can throw Shaq Lawson in there as well. I've always been a proponent of, like last year, don't do Max Williams in the first round, get Clive Walford in the third. And I usually tend to roll that way on the IDP side as well. 2 years ago, it was like, I'm not drafting Shazier, I'm drafting Chris Borland. This year's a little different. Bosa looks like a generational talent. He does everything well. There are not a lot of holes to his game, and it's just all going to depend. You have to be fluid. We're not legitimately going to look at guys like this until the back half of the first round. Don't go spend the 104, 105 on an IDP ever. Let's just throw a couple names. Let's say Will Fuller is out there at 110 or Joey Bosa is out there at 110. Take the guy that you think is the better ball player. Take the guy that you think is going to produce better for you. I'm always going to lean offense if it's even remotely close, but I got no problem with somebody taking Bosa, Miles Jack, Jalen Smith, one of those three guys in the first round. I can kind of see myself doing it for the first time in I don't know how long. And if you don't take them and you end up with one of these other guys later, that's cool too, because these other edge guys are amazing. This is a fantastic IDP class. I can't wait to dig into it, but there's not a real good concrete answer here. It's just stay true to your board and do your thing, man. You want to take Joey Bosa and you're worried about somebody laughing at you, fuck them. Take Joey Bosa. Just build your team the way you want to.
Yeah, that's right. And personally, I'm going to be the guy that pays up for Bosa. I just finished breaking down Buckner. I'm going to have a write-up for him up on UTH Dynasty in the next couple of days. And I really like what I saw from him, but in terms of IDP upside, there's just a huge valley. And between what's going to cost you a late first, or Buckner will probably cost you an early third, maybe a late third. I would rather have Bosa at the first cost. The gap in talent is huge. Even as good as Buckner is, Bosa is ridiculous. And in terms of Spence, I'm not paying up for Spence just because he's one of those guys that I see him getting stuck in a position where he's a linebacker. I don't like those guys. I didn't like Vic Beasley for the same reason. And even if their initial landing spot is good, if the team is in an iffy spot where they're probably going to change coaches or coordinators in the near future, then I'm more hesitant to do it, kind of like a team that's going to pick one of those guys early. But that's, I mean, I wasn't that high on Spence anyways, but I'm really not drafting him assuming defensive end eligibility like I am with Bosa and Buckner.
And Buckner couldn't play linebacker. Buckner is massive. He's so big.
No, and he is slow.
Yeah. Or we could just take Oakman. Jesus Christ.
Did you see the pictures of him from the Senior Bowl?
Yeah.
Dude, he's got little finger width legs. He skipped leg day every day.
Every day. The dude is huge. No leverage. None. He's like a human punching bag out there.
He's like if you balanced a bowling ball on two twigs. That's what he looks like.
And then tell it to go beat a left tackle around the corner in 2 seconds.
I'm surprised those knees haven't given out on him already. Oakman is going to have a rough time if he doesn't build his lower body up. But let's hit up our next question from our buddy Justin at Just In Time FTB. 17 draft class. I'm hearing it's epic, but I heard the same thing about 16 last year. Well, there's going to be some people that are going to hype up whatever draft classes come is next because they're just excited about all the college prospects. But the 17 class is truly special. Like during the 15 class, when some people were hyping up the 16 class, I was already on the 17 class, hyping them up, getting ready. Just the amount of talent in it is ridiculous. Calvin Cook or Dalvin, Chubb, Fournette, Juju, any of those guys could be the 101 in this class. That's how good this class is. And you're going to be getting those guys at 104, 105, 106. it's a really good time to be stocking up on 17 draft class picks in any league you can get them. Because chances are you're going to see a huge payoff in whatever you spent on them. Even if it looks like you lost the trade because who you traded blows up, you're going to get more value out of that 17 first than you think. The class is amazing. And I can't wait to watch a lot of these guys hit the NFL and see what they can do.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. It's all running back outside of Juju and the kid from Western Michigan, the Davis kid. I can't really think of any big time wideouts. Villeman, the big ass kid from Oregon State.
Who's the dude that just got Mike Williams?
Oh God, that's such a blow to the 16 class.
Him and James Conner.
Yeah, I was all about the 16 class and losing two, not just first rounders, two good prospects in Connor and Williams is a pretty big blow. But yeah, the 17 class, at least right now, looks a lot better than the 16 class. I'm still all about this 16 class, so I like the entire first round. I've got a ton of 16 picks, and yeah, I'm going to try to move some around. Maybe get paid off a little bit in 17, but I'm not moving, my 16 first for just straight up for a 17 first, unless it's like the 114 or something like that. Yeah, I'm all about getting into the 17 class, but I think the 16 class is getting glossed over right now. It's January. Talk to me in a couple months, and I'll bet you the story will be changing.
I agree with you that the 16 class is getting glossed over, but at the same time, anything after the 106, I'd trade straight up for a 17 first. Because, the wide receiver class is even deeper than that. Malachi Dupree is going to be my one or two wide receiver in the class. And yeah, that's a fourth wide receiver that would probably go over the top three in this class. There's 5-6 running backs that I would take over the top one or two running backs in this class. Zeke is if it wasn't for Zeke, I would take all of them over any running back in this class.
Well, yeah.
But it's the amount of talent in the next class is phenomenal. And if you can trade a 107 for a 17 first straight up, I'll do it. I don't care. I may be in the minority. Whatever. Don't care. And when I get Malachi Dupree at 105 next year, and you were drafting Michael Thomas.
I'll be drafting 112 because Michael Thomas went for 18. No, I got nothing.
No, you got nothing. I'm right. It happens.
No, that's bonkers. That's bonkers. You never know. That's 17. Yeah, I'm all about. I traded Josh Gordon for essentially a 17 first last week, and I'm thinking if that pick's in the top first round, I win. No, if it's in the top, 5 or 6, I'm good. You didn't even mention McCaffrey.
Yeah,
McCaffrey's amazing.
And then the other running back out of Notre Dame that got injured. What's his name?
I got nothing.
I had it written down earlier. Folston. I would rather have the 112 next year than the 107 this year.
You are insane.
You know what? I got called insane for a bunch of stuff.
Dude, that is so far out.
Don't care.
There's so much projecting there.
Don't care.
Way too much for my comfort level.
I'm just done having a comfort level.
I'm gonna put you to the test on this one this year.
Yeah.
We're gonna find out.
All right.
I'll wait till you're on the clock, see if you'll sell low. All right. Next question from our buddy Pat at Ravage FF. Mike Evans, Kelvin Benjamin are getting hammered for drops constantly, but yet Amari Cooper is not, and his drop rate was pretty high as well. Is this a concern or an anomaly? Drew, take it.
I'm not really concerned about it for any of them. I don't like Kelvin Benjamin because he's bad at football. I don't dislike him because he drops the football. He drops the football because he's bad at football. Mike Evans gets bunch of targets. He drops some footballs. But he's also efficient with the catches he does make. He looks good with the catches he does make. Same thing with Cooper. If you're still, lighting it up, despite those drops, I don't care. I don't care that you have drops. But if the fact that you're getting all those drops is destroying your fantasy value or destroying your upside, that's when I have a problem. Drops are a very subjective stat. What one person will call a drop, another person will call a shitty throw. And it's unless I'm going personally and comparing each drop from all of them, then I'm not going to weigh them equally either. When it comes down to it, I'm not that concerned about it as a blanket stat without having any context to it.
Yeah, I don't concern myself much with it. Yeah, Evans had some horrible drops this year. J-Matt had some horrible drops. And yeah, it's a little bit concerning, but what am I going to do? Drop Mike Evans out of my top 12 Dino receivers? Hell, why would I do that? Why would I do the same thing with Amari Cooper? The final stat lines are great for these guys. Kelvin, I didn't like Kelvin as much, and a lot of that had to do with the fact he's going to be 26 when the season starts, 25?
25.
I mean, he came in as an old-ass rookie, who didn't break out to the very end, but I wouldn't hate having Kelvin Benjamin on my dynasty team, not one bit. Not even a little bit. Drops are, like Drew said, it's very subjective. If you hate the guy and you want to bash on Mike Evans every time, every Sunday, all day, all day long, when Mike Evans drops one that's contested or he gets hit in the chest, as soon as he catches, that's a drop for Mike Evans. But by God, it's a catch. There was a difficult catch that he didn't quite make for Jordy Nelson or whoever you do like. So take it with a grain of salt. When you see somebody just bashing a player nonstop, just tell them to blow it out their ass or just stop listening to them, because that's just, some people just want to hate certain players for certain reason. Anything they can do to, keep that theme running, they're going to do it. So, yeah, I don't worry as much about it, but is it concerning? Yeah, it concerns me to see Mike Evans have these nasty concentration drops. You're right, it does. But I'm not going to just go crazy overreacting to it either.
Yeah, I mean, look at one of really the best wide receivers to ever play the game in Terrell Owens, and T.O. had drops all the damn time. Just didn't stop him from being third in the history of the NFL in receiving yards or receiving touchdowns. I'm going to take him in fantasy despite the fact that he has drops. And quick side note, how the hell is T.O. not a first ballot Hall of Fame, but Holtz and Bruce are both going in as finalists? What the hell is that?
Perception is reality.
Well, it's because it's all writers doing it, and T.O. was a peckerhead. Well, so what? He was a dick. So what? He was still good at football. Mm-hmm. If Jerry Rice had given people the finger every time he went on the field, you can't tell me he's still not the best wide receiver to play the game.
That's just the way it is, man. It's just the way it is.
It's dumb.
Yeah.
Let's move on to our next question. Comes from at Dynasty Football, FUT Ball. Why are people so low on Kelvin? 6'5", young wide receiver with a monster rookie season. I know he had some drops, but people would rather take the 108 over him and have Funchess higher. I think young is a relative term here. He's going to be 25 before he takes the field as his second active season. But even when you factor age out of it for what he is right now, he was still extremely old in college when he started producing, which almost gives the feel of he had to wait till he could be physically dominant over these opposing corners to really succeed. He's not a good route runner. He has drops because he's got bad hands. He's not that good of a wide receiver. I think he had a monster season because he was really the only option. Look at Ted Ginn this year. You're not going to tell me that Ted Ginn's some amazing wide receiver, but look at his stat line. Cam is going to force feed whoever he has to do stuff. Somehow Cam is, consistently a top 5 or 6 fantasy quarterback with Greg Olsen and a bunch of schmucks to throw to. I'm really not taking Funchess or Benjamin because neither have been particularly impressive to me, but I'm really not taking Benjamin unless I can get him at a discount. If I can get him for cheap, I'll take him because he's going to see another uptick in value because he's going to get targeted this year. He's going to have some fantasy relevance. I'm just not betting on him on the long term to the extent where people were paying after his rookie season what equated to like the 104 or 105. It's all about he's bad compared to what people are paying for him. That's where I'm at. If I can get him for a second-round pick, I'm going to pay a second-round pick. And there was nobody lower on Benjamin than me. I'm still, for a second-round pick, I'm taking him. But for a first-round pick, there's probably going to be a guy I can get that's going to pick up just as much value that I actually like. That's kind of where I'm at.
I think people are low on him relative to his direct peers. Jordan Matthews, Martavis Bryant, Dante Moncrief. Those guys that came out with him, throwing the rookies, DGB, Parker. These are all guys I'm taking over Kelvin Benjamin. I think I'd give the 108 for him in a lot of scenarios. I'd definitely take him over Funchess. Kelvin is just one of those guys that there's a reason why he didn't go as highly as some of these others, why he wasn't as highly regarded as Sammy Watkins, Mike Evans, Odell Beckham, Brandon Cooks, all these guys. There are a number of reasons, not the least of which is his advanced age and the problem with the hands, which, like I said, I don't pay too much attention to it, but I'm low on him relative to his class. The guys in his same tier, pretty much all of whom I'm going to take over Kelvin, but I still have no problem getting Kelvin on my roster, even in a startup. If he's sliding, I'm snagging him. If I can get him in a nice trade, I'm taking him, especially on teams where I'm good. If I've got Kelvin Benjamin, it's like my 3 or 4 on a dyno team that's competing, I'm happy with that. So it's not so much that we're low on him. It's just that he happens to be surrounded by a bunch of players with immense talent and upside. All right. Move on to our next question from Stealing Points 03. Who are your top 10 Dino RBs? I feel like it's Bell, Gurley, then everybody else. That's because it is Bell, Gurley, and everybody else. I don't really have a top 10. I like Hyde, Yeldon, David Johnson, Lamar Miller. Even if he stays in Miami, I like Lamar Miller. Even with limited touches, he's been good. Mark Ingram. Another great player. Zeke Elliott's my number 3 running back right now.
Same here.
With a point. It's not even debating it. You drop out of there. So, Doug Martin's kind of in that mix. Thomas Rawls, given what's going on in Seattle. Deion Lewis, another guy that I could see in my PPR top 10 or 15. Granted, we didn't see much, but what we saw was really good. So I'm sure Drew's got a few other names, but I just don't pay much attention to running back. I just kind of take them where I get them.
My list is going to be really similar. And no matter how much I hate on him, I feel like Devonta Freeman has to be somewhere in that top 10 mix.
He absolutely does.
Outside of that, it depends on the week for me. I could still have Gio close to there because I think Gio's going to produce regardless of Jeremy Hill. But there's not a ton of guys. Everybody's kind of in a state of just fluctuation. If Miller leaves, if Miller leaves Miami and they don't take any running backs, Ajayi pops so high up on my list because it tells me that they want to use him. But is he gonna stand up to the test of time? Probably not. That's why with every other running back, when they hit, I'm probably trading them because people are gonna get so hyped up for Ajayi as the starting running back in an Adam Gase offense that you're gonna be able to sell them for the world. Why not? But really, when it comes down to the bottom of that top 10 running back, it's already hazy and guys that I'm not super confident in.
Yeah, for me, we're in the 6th, 7th round of an offense only startup. That's where I would start looking at these guys, and they're probably gone at that point. Hell, I don't know. So I'm all about jumping ship on running back. You can get a haul. I got Nuke Hopkins and the 103 for DeMarco Murray midseason a year or two ago when DeMarco Murray was killing it. It was like week 4. And granted, it was a random first at that time. But that 103 turned into Jameis Winston in a 2 QB league. And now I couldn't get either of them for DeMarco. So if your running backs are riding hot, burn and turn, baby.
Really, I would rather, instead of spending that 6th round startup pick getting a running back that might hold their job, I'd rather spend a 20th and get, Isaiah Crowell or Carlos Williams. You can still get Duke Johnson really late. Amir Abdullah is falling. Even Jeremy Hill, I'll spend a late round pick on Jeremy Hill because at this point, his value has crumbled. So why not pick up the remaining pieces and hope something happens? And if it doesn't, oh fucking well, you didn't spend anything on them.
You can still start them every week.
Exactly. Those are my favorite players. Are the ones I can go and spend half a shit on, and then if they blow up, hell yeah, then I just gained all this value. But if they didn't, that's a half a shit I wasted. Oh well, don't care. It's the same thing with, like, I'm still going to buy Kyrie Robinson this year, or like Kadeem Carey. So many people love Jeremy Langford, but Kadeem Carey got some run at the end of the season, and he's not going to cost you anything to go get. Why not go get Kadeem Carey as a late round running back? I'm sure there are leagues where Kadeem Carey's not even rostered, and he could edge out Langford because Langford sucks at football. And maybe I'm still biased because I liked Carey as a prospect, but I don't care. I'm a biased evaluator. I'm freely willing to admit that.
Anybody that says they can remove bias from their valuations they're not being true to themselves. I mean, I can't do it. I just can't. If there's a guy I like, well, by God, I like him. If there's a guy I don't like, well, then I don't even need a reason. I just do it. Just how to be a bad fantasy owner by me.
I mean, if we're being realistic and we say we can remove bias, then I'd have already let go of my Isaiah Crowell and my Devontae Adams and my Kristen Michael love. But somehow I'm still going out and getting all of them. Kristen Michael's another one that might have a shot for real relevance next year, that you might just be in one of those leagues where everybody kind of gave up on him, which is possible. He might not beat out Rawls, but he might be the stronger part of that. I can't think of words tonight. He might be the stronger part of that committee come next year.
Or he could be folding towels in the locker room.
Can I get fantasy points for that?
Hell, I'm scoring everything else in our leagues. I might as well figure out a way to integrate it.
Let's try it. Let's see how it goes. I mean, is he going to get evaluated on how well they're folded or on speed of folding?
Both. It's a combination.
Good.
You don't just haphazardly fold it down. You got to have clean creases, but you also have to be fast and efficient. And I feel like with his metric profile, he could be elite.
I'll call up Seattle, talk to their equipment manager, see if I can get some tape on that the towel folding practice.
The handwork.
Worth taking. Let's hit up our next question. It's the same question, but we got it from two different people. It comes from at Kurtek119 and at Hamlet D1313. What are your thoughts on Matt Jones? You think he's a hold, a sell? And this is pre-draft. And if so, what rookie pick do you take? And Hamlet's side of it is, what's a good offer to throw out to the Matt Jones owner? So if you've got him, what do you want? Or if you're looking to get him, what are you willing to pay? And it's kind of in the middle for me. I think if you're looking to get him, I think anywhere up to a late-ish first is reasonable. But if I've got him, I want at least that latest first. I want that first plus, another dude I like. But if you can throw out an early second and pick up Matt Jones closer to the draft, I'd do it. But if I've got Matt Jones, I'm not taking that early second. I would rather hold him.
I don't know. Going and buying Matt Jones right now just seems like a bad idea to me. Thinking about Trey Mason. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What was Trey Mason worth right up until they took Gurley? Top 10 RB price, easy, right?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you because I was valuing him at like the 104, and I was overvaluing him. So probably a mid to late first.
It scares me. We're assuming Alf Morris leaves. Certainly looks like it.
It's what the reports are saying.
We're assuming that Chris Thompson is a hack. We're assuming that Washington doesn't bring in another running back in paying those kind of prices for Matt Jones. I'm not doing it. I like Matt Jones. I think he runs violently. I like the way he runs. I think he's a fine player. But I've just seen too many running backs wash out because they just don't get the run. And I happen to think Chris Thompson's a fine third down running back. I'd rather go buy Chris Thompson for free. Buy for free. I'd rather have Chris Thompson at a fraction of the cost of Matt Jones. He doesn't have that workhorse upside, but he could be just as viable in a PPR format. So I'd sell Matt Jones for any first. Quick. I wouldn't buy him for a second. I'm just not banking on it. There's too much if. Too many things have to go right for it to work out. There's a lot of things can happen between now and then.
That's fair. But I also see there's just as much risk with a late first-round rookie pick because you haven't seen them produce at all. We've seen Matt Jones produce at the NFL level, so I feel like that level of risk kind of gets balanced out. We don't know if this rookie is going to do anything, whereas we don't know if Matt Jones is going to retain his value or retain his starting position.
That's true, but you might could even pull that off on draft day.
Yeah.
After the NFL draft has happened, you're on the clock, 109. You're looking at a bunch of guys you don't really like, or you could go get Matt Jones for that pick. And Washington didn't draft a running back in the first, 3 or 4 rounds. All right, cool. Yeah, I'd be all right with it then, but right now there's just too much speculation involved, just way too much for me. And if you're not Le'Veon Bell or Todd Gurley, Carlos Hyde, handful of guys, I don't care.
I like that call because, to me, anybody who owns Matt Jones right now, is their valuation of him is probably going to stay pretty consistent all the way to the NFL draft if they don't draft anyone. So you can probably pay them whatever you would pay them now and do it then when you know it's a safer position. And I also agree with you on Chris Thompson. I like him. I think season can go weird and he could have some Bilal Powell PPR upside in a random season. He looked good this year. There's a reason they kept giving him the ball.
Yeah, we've talked about it ad nauseum. Give me the guy that's going to catch 4 or 5 passes, and I'll put him in my running back spot and see what happens while I've got a bunch of stud wide receivers. So, anyhow, moving on. This is from Dynasty Fife at Fife1919 on Twitter. Just one question for the show. Gearing up to do my first Superflex rookie draft. Just wondering in this class where you think the QB should/will be drafted. I'm a little QB needy. Parentheses, fuck you, Matt Ryan, close parentheses, and hold the 102 and 108 draft picks. In a super flex, maybe I'm just crazy and I'm not ready to admit that Matt Ryan might not be that great, but I'm really cool with Matt Ryan in a super flex, rolling him out there every week. Hell, I'm really cool with a lot of quarterbacks. Matt Ryan's still up there with guys that I like. 102. I just can't see me pulling that trigger 102 this year. My 2 top prospects are locked in pretty hard. We don't have an Andrew Luck in this class. We don't even have a Jameis Winston in this class. That's coming in a couple years. The quarterbacks, we got some good ones on the horizon. It's like, for me, it all depends on what the NFL draft does. I guess right now it's Goff, Lynch. Wentz is picking up so much steam. Yeah, it's Goff, Lynch, and Wentz, and I'm going to let the NFL draft tell me what to do. Last year, Drew and I both settled in with Jameis at 104 in Superflex and 2 QB behind Coop, Gurley, White. Superflex this year, it's tough, man. It's real tough for me. I'm not a QB evaluator by any stretch, but I could see me taking a QB 103, 104, something like that if I needed one. More so in a 2 QB than a Superflex, but it totally depends. I mean, if Goff goes to Cleveland, what does that mean? It means he's got a job, but what does it really mean? You know,
It means I don't want him.
Right. And let's say Goff's first, one of the first QBs off the board, and he goes to Dallas. That I like because he's not going to be the starter year one. He's going to sit, so it's going to shove him down the board, and then you can get Goff at in the second round or third round, like we got Grayson this year.
Yep.
Right. He wasn't a high profile, high pedigreed prospect, but it pushed him way further down the boards than what he should have gone relative to his draft position. So it's just important. Set your rookie board. Set it. Quarterbacks in a 1 QB league. Can't remember last time I spent a rookie pick on one, or first round rookie pick on one. But in a 2 QB league, I'm willing to roll the dice, but not at 102.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think 104 is about where I'm looking at quarterback after Zeke, Boyd, and Treadwell, because it's kind of a fall off after there. You really have to. It's really going to depend on where everybody lands. And I'm not really that excited about any of the QB landing spots like I was last year. It's just nowhere's that good, especially in guys who are the teams who are going to have top 10 picks or whatever. And my computer just went retarded. That was fun. I just don't like any of the teams picking in the top 10, especially for quarterback. Cleveland has historically not done so well with picking their quarterbacks and allowing them to succeed. So if Wentz or whoever goes there, not taking them. Maybe if they fall to 108, sure, I'll probably look at them there. Dallas, if Dallas takes a quarterback, like you said, they're going to fall. Are they going to fall extremely far? Maybe not, but I'm also not overpaying to get them, knowing I'm not going to have that production. I would rather take one of those picks and see if there's an owner that is either not that high on their quarterbacks or overvalues the rookie pick, and see if you can't trade them for an established quarterback, which would be my move even in a regular class, because I would rather go after the quarterback that's already shown he can do stuff, because of just the insanely high failure rate of the position in the NFL, especially coming out of the draft, even for first-round picks. And like Tyler said, I will spend hours on hours watching tape of wide receivers, running backs, defensive linemen, linebackers. But when it comes to quarterbacks, there are teams that are spending millions and millions of dollars in scouting departments and blowing it every single year. I'm not going to assume that there's some insight I have that I can't figure it out. I'm going to look at what the consensus tells me. I'm going to look at what the NFL tells me. And, I'll go look at guys. I'll go get an idea of who they are. But if the NFL says your board is dumb, I'm going to say, that's fair. My board's dumb. I like your board better. It's maybe that's not a good answer. Maybe we're being sheep, but bah.
Yeah.
Don't care.
Yeah, I'm not trying to predict quarterback.
Shit. Too much work.
It's hard, man. There's a lot that goes into quarterback, a lot more than any other position. There's so much going on behind the face mask at that position. I mean, it's all about how a guy's wired. And like Drew said, I love that move. Go trade for an established quarterback. If you need a quarterback, you're sitting there with that 102, put a package together to go get Cam Newton. You can do it on rookie draft day. It can be done. Put a package together. Go buy Andrew Luck low. You're not gonna get him for just that 102, but you can get him. I don't even hate trading like the 105 or something for even like Matt Stafford. Go for it. Get you a guy who's a starting quarterback who puts up numbers. We're rolling those dice on those rookie quarterbacks. But don't get me wrong. When I'm spending that high rookie pick on Jameis Winston, I'm not loving life. You know what I mean? we've seen quarterbacks, Ryan Leaf, Tim Couch, Achilles Smith, Brady Quinn. We could do this all day talking
Colt
about
McCoy.
quarterbacks. Well, he wasn't a first rounder. Vince Young. Vince
Yeah.
Young was a high first round pick, and I think he's selling barbecue or something. I don't fucking know. But I mean, they wash out. So a lot of risk in the position. There's a lot of reward to be had too, especially in 2QB Superflex. But elite running back, elite wide receivers, just as valuable.
Yeah, and I said earlier, I let the NFL tell me what they want about quarterback. I still like guys. There'll still be guys that I'll watch and get attached to, and then I'll watch them in the NFL and I'll see them still do good. This happened with Derek Carr. I was a huge fan of him. I liked him coming out. I liked his first year. Everybody talks shit. I stayed the course, and that turned out well. But I also wasn't out betting the house that Carr was going to succeed. I was spending a reasonable amount to get him. So for those of you guys who are, using your own evals to go off of, even with quarterback, which is such a shitty position, still, have your guys. Just don't bet as much as you would on the other positions that I don't know what I'm saying anymore. I pass. Got nothing. Let's move on. Our next question comes from @14teammocker. And he wants to know which is more damaging to a wide receiver's career. Not his value, his actual career, which is hard for us to evaluate sometimes. Missing his rookie season or having a healthy rookie season with low usage. And for me, the reason I say healthy with low usage is it's not more damaging to their career, but it's more indicative of a poor career or a damaged career. Because if they're healthy and they're maintaining low usage, it's probably for a reason. There's probably a reason they're not getting targets or they're not turning those targets into production. It's part of the reason why we're so apprehensive about Aguilar right now, because he got so many snaps and wasn't getting targeted. Even when he was getting targeted, he wasn't really getting used. And his context was he wanted to talk about Jalen Strong getting knocked. The biggest difference for me is Jalen Strong was not getting the snaps. Jalen Strong they disappeared for numerous games. But when he was in, they'd target him. And he wasn't a huge part of the game, but he was a significant part of the game. And you saw him picking up steam and being used in the offense there with time. And that's what a rookie season should look like. He shouldn't just jump right in week one and have 12 targets. But if he's progressively doing better as the season goes on, that to me is a positive indicator. Whereas Aguilar was seeing a ton of snaps from day one and nothing really changed through week 17. That to me is a huge discrepancy between the two situations. Whereas, healthy with or missing a whole rookie season like Kevin White, I think what it is people are just washing it away. They're looking at who is this guy as a prospect. He's essentially just had a year to learn what the system looks like. And we're not going to drop him. We're not going to lower him down for it, but some people are raising him up, but a lot of people are holding him. To me, the people who are raising up Kevin White are the ones who don't think Alshon Jeffrey is returning. And if that's the case, I can agree with that because he becomes the one. That's an automatic value increaser.
Yeah, I mean, these two, it's a weird situation with these two. I mean, Strong and age notwithstanding, all right, Kevin White's older than we want him to be. I don't know what was going on. There was it was difficult to get an age on this kid, but he's old, man. He's 23 now. I don't know what he'll be at the start of the season. He's older than you want. But these were two different level prospects. I love Jalen Strong. We both love Jalen Strong. You're going to have a hard time finding anybody that liked Jalen Strong more than I did. But I like Kevin White twice as much as Jalen Strong as a prospect. Just everything about him, every box he checked was just that much more than Jalen Strong. I'm buying both of them. You know, I mean, I'm all over it. Strong is already cheaper than what he was. I mean, I was taking him late first. I'm doing it again today. If we're having the draft today, I'm taking him over Duke Johnson. I'm taking him over Phillip Dorsett, Devin Smith, all those guys that are jumbled in there. I'm still taking Kevin White 103. I'm paying this year's 103 for him right now.
Yep.
So it's an interesting point where, you know, Kevin White's just getting a pass and Jalen Strong's getting hammered. But we don't know what White would have done. We can only speculate as to what he would have done. We know what Jalen Strong did, and I think a lot of that was being in O'Brien's doghouse. And that son of a bitch was skinny, man. Did you notice that when you saw Strong? I seem to remember him at Arizona State looking like a full-on, you know, 215, 220.
Yeah, he looked solid.
Yeah, he looked like AJ Green this year, like skinny.
I don't know. Maybe O'Brien is just about, you know, letting his veterans start and making rookies really earn it instead of just giving the new guys passes because they had stock invested in them. They traded for Ryan Mallett, but he didn't get the initial start. You know, they drafted Tom Savage and he didn't get any start. To me, it might be more indicative of his system, less so than an indictment on Jalen Strong. And I hate that we keep going to Aguilar, but Chip had him on the field right away, and that's what a doghouse looks like. That's being out there and still being told no. Strong didn't dress for a lot of games. When he dressed for games, he was out there getting snaps. You remember the first game he played, he got 2 touchdowns that game. I remember because I started him in DFS, or no, I started him in a real lineup and watched somebody's DFS lineup blow up because of him. Excuse me. But to me, that's the difference. I don't think he was in his doghouse. I think he just had to earn his snaps, which I don't necessarily dislike that about O'Brien's system. You know, a lot of these rookies come in, you know, they love the smell of their own farts, and you know, he's got to knock some sense into them.
No, we've become spoiled too. You know, what happened to you got to give them 3 years at wideout? That was the whole thing about wideouts, is they take longer to develop. And we got spoiled. Nuke Hopkins came right out of the gate, had a strong rookie season. We don't even need to talk about the 15 class or the 14 class. You know, this year Diggs did work. Devontae Parker, Coop did work. Coop was ready to go 2 years ago, man. Coop's about as polished as it gets. Devontae Parker started doing things towards the end of the year, but nobody blew the top off the joint, which is more of a regression to the mean. That's kind of the way it is. So if we're going to go crazy over guys' rookie seasons again, we're going to go back to drafting Torrey Smith because he's a proven veteran.
Hug.
Yeah, exactly.
And our last question comes from @DannyTage. What are you guys doing with Mike Evans? Could you give some IDP packages you would sell for, Moncrief Plus, etc.? I'm buying Mike Evans. Everywhere that people aren't valuing him the exact same way I am, I'm buying him. He's a top 5 dynasty wide receiver for me. He was a top 5 dynasty receiver for me last year. He's just in better company this year. If I can get him, I'm getting him. There's not a whole lot of IDP packages I'd sell for. It could have Kuechly and Watt, and outside of only the craziest scoring formats, I'd still pass. You know, Moncrief plus Watt. Even I'm trying to think of like the NPLB scoring. I consider it there, but the scoring there is nuts. In your average IDP scoring league, I would need like Sammy and Watt to trade for Evans. I like IDP guys, but they're not that valuable. And Moncrief's another guy that, you know, gimme.
Yeah, I have a lot of Evans, and I'm just holding, man. I'm just riding it out. Somebody, you know, is going to give me a windfall for him, I'll listen. But they're going to have to value him like I do, and like it's a top 5 startup pick. Like if we're talking in terms of just first rounders, a shitload of just first rounders. With a 101 sprinkled in there. So maybe I'm just way too high on the kid, but his first 2 seasons are amazing. I mean, historical. What he's done in his first couple seasons, and he's tall, 6'5". He's 230 freaking pounds. He's playing with one of the best young quarterbacks in the league. He's the alpha in his own offense. What's not to like, other than the drops, which are a problem, but they're not that big of a problem.
You know what else there is to like? There's a new offensive coordinator in Tampa Bay, an offensive coordinator that took essentially a cast of unknown players and took them to a top 5 Division I offense. Putting him with Jameis Winston and Mike Evans and ASJ, yeah, I want a part of that. He's a guy who made Mike Thomas a name right now. And I mean the Southern Miss Mike Thomas. This guy is a good fucking coach. And he's going to turn that offense into some fire. Not a lot of people are going to talk about it, but ASJ is going to see a bump in value. If Doug Martin stays there, he's going to have another good season. If Charles Sims becomes the guy there, he's going to have a good season. Look at how they use the running backs there. We had 2,000-yard rushers this year. We had, they had plenty of receiving yards. Their Tampa Bay's offense is going to be worth something next year.
And they play in a good division for fantasy. Other than Carolina, they're in a good defense in that division.
There might be in New Orleans next year. If you look at just the talent on that defense, there's no reason on paper that defense should not be good. Yeah. Let me finish first. We had a worse cast that was a top 5 defense in 2013. But somehow they got schemed into just shittiness. Cam Jordan's a top 5 defensive end. Vaccaro is a top 10 safety. Stephon Anthony is on his way up. Kikaha is on his way up. There's a lot of solid young talent. We've got a top 12 pick this year. Probably not going to offense. It's not like the offense was the problem. There's no reason that defense can't be successful if we have a decent coordinator, which we haven't seen in ever, really.
What about, they had Rob Ryan. He's amazing.
You know what? I don't even want to talk about that.
I'm sorry. I'm being awful.
I think it upsets me because I tried so hard to make excuses for him because that first year he was there was a top 5 defense. And then it just kept being shitty. I don't know what happened. It broke my heart to watch it, though, because Breeze is still out there just slinging it. Even though got rid of Jimmy, slinging it, didn't care. The year before that, no offensive line. He's getting hit on every play, still slinging it. But then we can't even, keep the opposing team from just scoring the same touchdown we just got. And then he's going out there tired of shit on the next play because defense only held him for a minute and a half.
Yeah, they were bleeding this year, dude.
It's super frustrating because it's the offense has never been a problem. Even in our shittiest season. You go back to like the 2011 with that 49ers playoff game that was fantastic. If we had any modicum of a defense that could have stopped Alex Smith and Vernon Davis, we'd have been in the NFC Championship. We'd have been in the Super Bowl that year. There was no reason for us not to be. But because we couldn't stop Alex fucking Smith, we blew out.
I hit a nerve. My apologies. See, I'm riding my defense high being a Broncos fan.
And what a defense they have. It's and at least you'll have some degree of offense to go with it, especially in previous years. Like, with us, it was, hey, look at this super awesome offense and just ignore the defense. Forget it's there. Whereas y'all's defense is hot shit, and then your offense is still even when it's bad, it's still pretty good. It's like pizza.
It's good. Yeah, it's like pizza. I've never had bad pizza.
I've had cold pizza and been like, that was all right.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd eat that again.
Yeah.
Well, I don't feel like we need a rant this week.
No. We did some IDP this week. I don't think we had any IDP at all last week when I went back.
We did either.
That's a rarity for us that we don't at least, even if it's not in the topics, we tend to just kind of ramble over there at some point.
Yeah, one of our first 2 weeks back, it was like, I feel like we had more IDP than we did offense 1 week. And yet people still listened. I feel like there's not that many IDP players, but for some reason people listened.
I'm curious. I really am curious how many Dynasty people, what's the percentage?
If y'all
IDP and not.
If y'all do IDP and y'all, appreciate the content, let us know. Or if y'all don't do IDP and, this content is worth nothing to you, let us know. I mean, just to get an idea of, how much time we're actually spending on this, if it's even worth it. And if you guys just play Dynasty and have an opinion about the show, let us know. Feedback is fantastic. If you think we get way too off on tangents, there's probably not a lot we can do, but we can try and be a little bit better. We're trying to make the show better every week. We want to improve. This week for the first time in like 3 weeks, I remember to do the intro. I remember to tell you who our names were and everything. So we're getting better. We're getting more on track. But we really appreciate you guys listening to us. We appreciate you tuning in every week. If you really like this show, give us a rating on iTunes. We really appreciate that. But just in general, I mean, for all you guys that send in questions every week, you guys make the show. We think of a couple of topics, but, we can't think of as much stuff as you guys all do as a group. So, Tyler, you got any last parting shots for us this week, bud?
I think you got it, man. Just thanks to everybody listening. And the questions, it's huge because God knows what we talk about without them. I'm sure we'd find something, but it would make no sense. We got a guest next week.
That's right.
I'm pumped.
We're going to have Sticky Z at Adam TZ. He's a writer for DLF. He's the head admin for the Dynasty Football subreddit. And he's just one of our buddies. He's been on the show before. We had a great time with him before, so we're really, really looking forward to it. We're going to redraft the 2015 rookie class, and we'll probably get into some more shenanigans. But if there's anything specifically you guys want us to touch on, send us a DM. Let us know ahead of time. There's also a new form on the ffcouchcoach.com podcast site where you can just input a question, and it'll go straight to a form for us so we can access whichever way is easiest for y'all. Hell, if you want, you can email it to dynastyplaybook@yahoo.com. I mean, I check it every day, even though it's only Twitter notifications. But however you guys want to get them to us, send us your questions, send us your topics, whatever. Yeah, but we really appreciate it.
Yeah, we're planning a few different things. We're going to do some more intense like IDP only shows, some 2QB stuff. We got a number of guests, that we're going to get on this year. But first, we got to knock our rust off. We were out for the entire season, and see what I mean?
We're getting there. We still got a bunch of ums and in there, but we're getting a little bit better every week. So with that, this has been the Dynasty Playbook. We're not really professional, but we're fun to listen to. I've been your host, Drew. You can find me on Twitter at DrewDawsonNFL. With me has been my excellent co-host, Tyler. You can find him on Twitter at HBOMIDP. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next week.